are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Hey, great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech. Bonus episode right here on the Locked On Podcast Network with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan, whether it's YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks for dialing us up. Once again, we're getting with you back for bonus time on basketball time. Red Raiders and Islanders are coming up tonight. I guess this is maybe, at least for some period of time, the final chance to take out a team with Texas A&M in their name, but we're going to try to take advantage of that once again. Chris, still early on in the season, but I got to tell you, as we head to the USA tonight for this one with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, a little jarring looking at the schedule and seeing Villanova coming up next. So you will be out of the land of quote-unquote tune-up, I guess. And, man, if last game is any indication, this is nothing you can just roll out and take for granted. So I'm interested to see what's going down tonight. Hopefully a Red Raider win.
Yeah, and as I look at it, Villanova has already dropped. They are ranked, I think, but they have already dropped one game this year. But yeah, I mean, it gets real next week in the Bahamas. There's a lot of RPI or net, quad one and quad two opportunities. I think, because I think Villanova, and then it's what, North Carolina, Northern Iowa, maybe is that next round, win or lose. But yeah, tonight against the Islanders, again, it's another what we would term a bye game or guarantee game. I don't know. I mean, Houston's already played the Islanders, and I think it was 82-50. They played the same half, in the first half and the second half. I think it was like 41 to essentially like 24.5 or whatever in each half. And I think the Cougars forced the Islanders into, I think, 17 turnovers and things like that. So, but this is about, your team continuing to figure out each other, figuring out because I tell you what you'd like to see tonight that's been a bit interesting is through the first two, they haven't shot it particularly well. And what is fascinating about that is against the Aggies in the exhibition game, well documented, they shot the lights out. Against a team that is much better on paper than A&M Commerce or against San Jose State. And so go figure, like, which will the real kind of Texas Tech offense kind of stand up. But that's the thing about all the new pieces trying to put together. You're going to see some inconsistencies and some grind and some hot nights, some cold nights, and this is going to go on for a bit until you kind of sort through of, okay, now we know what they are. We know what they're capable of, but we also know what they're capable of from an offensive standpoint. And because they're just hitting, I think, on an average, I think 4 threes a game, and they made 14 in that game versus the Aggies there in Denton. So go figure, but they'll fall. You've gotten clean looks. The guy that I'm expecting to see catch fire at some point soon is Chance McMillan. He's just too good of a shooter. He's gotten good looks. They just haven't, hadn't knocked them down just yet. But I really think that the shots will start to fall. But hey, against San Jose State, it was kind of, fun to see you have to grind against what I think is a pretty good team. And you figured out a different way to kind of win because it wasn't a parade to the free throw line that night like it was against A&M Commerce. The shots weren't necessarily falling, but you scored just enough. You got into the paint just enough, and I think that's where you made your living was the points in the paint that night with Pop, with the 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio against the Spartans. So, just a few things that we'll look for tonight.
I don't really remember a ton of fun kicking in to like the last 7 minutes or so. But yeah, I guess it was fun. I get what you're saying because you want to see a team go through some of these types of experiences. And thank God you learn what you learn in a win. At the end of the day, you still get the win and everything's okay. But yeah, your lip was bloodied to a degree. And give credit to San Jose State, who had plenty of wins a season ago, probably will again this year. But Yeah, some of these trends so far, just through a couple of games, and I mean, it's 2 freaking games in an exhibition, so don't want to make mountains out of molehills, but they've been kind of wild because the three-point shooting obviously is going to stand out to anybody paying attention as you go from like 41%, and I think you were at 21%, you were at 18% last time out, and then the free throw attempts, at least from game 1 to 2, not talking about the exhibition game, but you were there 29 times, and then you were there 11 times. So, yeah, we've got some split personality type stuff happening. One nice trend from game 1 to game 2, 18 turnovers to only 11 then the second time out. So I guess take your pick if you're predicting what we're going to see here this evening. But in a couple of different categories, man, we've seen some wild swings so far, but maybe to be expected early on.
You know, and that's there's more parity in college football and college basketball than ever before. And part of that is because the way that everything is structured now, because so many teams have so many new pieces that you're just kind of trying to ram them together and figure it out. And it just doesn't work like that. The sport's too hard and everybody is older, but everybody is also like newer. So there's not a lot of chemistry, and all those things. And so that's why, again, I applaud so many of these teams playing heavyweight type matchups in these early, weeks of the season, because nobody's going to fault you if you drop one of these, because you just don't even know what you are yet. You play somebody on November the 10th and you play them again on March the 10th. They could be vastly different teams and organizations or rosters, even for all we know. And all that stuff. So that's the fun part. It probably drives coaches crazy, but this is the job now. You take all these, and I know Coach McCaslin was asked about, his starting lineup and things like that. And he was the way he answered it was, what we opted to do is start guys with a lot of experience, and we'll probably continue to start the guys with a lot of experience. And so, most of these transfers and Pop, and then Chance McMillan off the bench, Lamar obviously first off the bench and all that, but because it's just tricky, man. And so if you have a really good roster and you bring back 5 to 7 guys from that team, boy, you have a big time advantage over a lot of the schools out there, as long as you don't get complacent. But Texas Tech is not in that boat. They have a lot of new pieces they're trying to gel rather quickly, and then a new staff that is trying to teach it to them.
Man, one thing before we get out of here, Chris, that hasn't been a wild swing. It's been steady through the first couple of games. That's what you've done on the defensive end of the floor, 46 and 42 points. It may look like a rock fight, but I'll take you winning 30 rock fights this year if they have to be that way. You've forced 14 and 16 turnovers, games 1 and game 2 respectively. And, man, that's been nice to see early on, because I want a program that is back to being rooted in a defensive culture, and you've done a lot of that through the first 2.
That's the hardest thing, too, to get a team to buy into and individual players to buy into, especially when they're older and maybe they have bad habits. Yeah. So, but I will tell you, Grant McCaslin is a defensive-minded coach in that he understands, because, I mean, if you want to know – I think because I've heard him say it multiple times before, but it's like, why isn't so-and-so playing? Why didn't so-and-so play more? Why did you take so-and-so out? So much of it is based on defense. If you can't guard, and they've, unless something changes, but I think in the first 2 games they played for the most part all man. If you can't guard and move your feet, don't really have a spot for you out there. You've got to be able to guard. And I think a lot of those guys would tell you, the new pieces would tell you, and even the ones that were here last year would tell you, he's made me a better defender than I was individually. And so much, it's just not just effort, but it's technique, and it's mental focus, and not letting down on that end of the floor. And there's a lot that goes on. But yeah, I think that's a great point that you make. And I would expect, and there's going to be some nights, man, because what's so funny is I think he was almost calling himself out after that A&M exhibition game.
Yeah.
He's like, we shot it like crazy. He goes, but I know the defensive part of my brain is like, what just happened? That's way, we gave up 84. That's way too much. Like, we can't do that. And so, there you go. It's kind of all full circle in the conversation. But yeah, you're going to be coached well on defense. Some nights it's going to look better than the others, but I really trust what he's doing. And he's got a rim protector now in Warren Washington who can clean up the glass and alter and, block shots and alter shots or discourage shots from even being taken. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, and to wrap it up, saw this from Texas Tech this week that the last time out of the gates you had held your first two opponents under 50 for whatever that's worth to you, 1951-52. Shout out to the great Polk Robinson. I'll bring it up anytime I can tip the cap to Polk Robinson, who, of course, the song Polk Salad Annie was written about. Look that up if you want to fact check me. But 51-52, Chris, that was a little ways back, right? So making some history, I guess, already. 2 games out of the gate.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
All right, Chris is on the call again, and we'll be back on the other side to visit about that and continue to get you set for Red Raiders and UCF on a football front from Jones Stadium this weekend. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss a thing. And we'll see you coming up tomorrow for the final round this week on Locked On Texas Tech.